So from this stage on, it is sometimes worth to get to know some books. I would say for level 1 and 2 and the basics, this book is my favorite. Measure What Matters by John Doerr. This is much more about what should you actually focus on. What are your objective and key results? My favorite book on that. So, but from then on, you get much more specific with your business model. Yeah, some people are e-commerce, software as a service, mobile app. You just saw that the mobile app experience is so different that the reports are not even comparable. This book, Lean Analytics, is for me the favorite overview of what KPIs you should be tracking in which business model. So that would be a nice recommendation. All right, let's dive into level 3, display features. Here we focus on the parts of getting even more customer insights with demographic data and interests, and also the ability to start retargeting visitors of your website with Google Ads. And this is definitely the place where we start to be a bit more careful about GDPR. Up until now, we just observed user behavior, and it's still being discussed whether or not that requires an active opt-in. But from this level on, level 3 and beyond, it is very likely that you will always need a very explicit consent. Because in order, for example, to retarget people and to get those demographic data and interest, Google has to create client ID, which is unique to a person that he can track across multiple devices. Yeah, if Google is able to. So we already got the first GDPR related question, which is in German DSGVO. Do you want to read it or shall I? No worries. Let me read it to you. With the new consent banners, one has to install now, which asks you to consent to statistic data. We did that and lost like almost 90% of the data. Is it way better to implement analytics? So is there a better way? So Noodles, do you have a WordPress website? Yeah. I have a recommendation for everybody who has WordPress websites, which is absolutely fantastic in form of cookie consent, and who doesn't have a WordPress website. You should look on how this WordPress plugin is implementing GDPR. Let's go to the website and let's hope that a cookie banner shows up. If not, of course, I am on this website, yeah, from time to time. Let me show you how it looks like. It is so beautiful. So this plugin provider called Borlabs has a very, very high converting cookie banner. And starting from level 3, this is exceptionally important, and it's very likely that we even have to implement this for level 1 and 2. Yeah, so this cookie banner has, in my experience, an opt-in rate of over 90%. Yeah, don't worry that you have typo 3. Yeah, you can implement a similar banner, but look at the idea that they are making, how they are making it. Let me make it bigger. Now you can see that the big call to action is accept all cookie. Only the essential cookies are pre-selected, and I would have to add those manually. Except when I press all, accept all. Yeah, this is German, so I have to translate it. If you press save, a much more subdued call to action with a different, more subtle color, yeah, a gray tone, then only the essential cookies would be downloaded. But what do people actually do? They all press the big blue button because everybody is annoyed by those cookie banners. And see what happens. I click, first those 3 check marks are being made, and then it's accepted. This has a more than 90% opt-in rate. If any of you are using Borlabs, please let me know what your cookie acceptance rate has been there. And I hope this is a recommendation, and I'm super sad that this is, as far as I know, a WordPress only solution. Yeah. And I really hope they will open it up for different ones. Until then, take a look at the cookie solution that we, for example, have on Pirate Skills. If you go to growth.pirateskills.com in an anonymized browser, yeah, of course, I have consented it so many times it will probably not ask me. Oh yeah, there it is. It is a front and center cookie acceptance experience. Yeah, it is not as slick as the one that we saw from Ball Labs, but it also gives you the chance to accept or to customize. Why is it important that this is big in the middle and it's darkening the whole screen? It increases the percentage of people who accept. If you have it only on the lower border of your website at the top or at the bottom, people will ignore it and scroll, and you will not get good analytics data. This is why if you want to do proper tracking, you have to put it in the face of your customer. This is worse for the customer experience, but hey, the GDPR made us do this. The cookie banner I'm using here is by a service called EUBenda, which is also the service I'm using to create my privacy policies. Yeah, and it's very cheap. It's just a couple of bucks per year, and it helps you to create proper, really adaptable privacy policies and the proper cookie banners, as you saw on my website. I really hope you like this. So if you're on WordPress, 100% go with Ball Labs. If you're anywhere else, check out EUBenda or take a look at how Ball Labs is doing it and try to emulate that. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. Level 3, what do we get for those sweet display features? And that was the perfect time to ask for the GDPR stuff. Thank you for that. So what do we have to do? We have to make a couple of changes in our property settings. For example, let's make this bigger again. Oh no, it's big enough. Wait a moment. Back. Check this out. Okay, so we have to enable the demographic and interest reports, and we have to enable the data collection services. Yeah, before you enable those, Google will not track interest data and will not be able to collect retargeting data. And if you want to make those buttons, if you want to activate those buttons, you should have your active consent sorted out and how you want to do that. So just as a little warning. So what do you get by just tapping this little button? You get this graph, for example. You can now see how old your audience is and what gender Google believes your visitors have. For example, we see a dominance of 25 to 34-year-old people with a 70% male rate. So we can now, for example, when we do Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads, focus on the male demographic between 25 and 34. This could also speak to the information that you present on your website and how to talk to people. And for example, what kind of images to use when you want to show people using your product. So the majority of people on your website can actually identify with that. What you can also get, what I think is absolutely fascinating, are those interest reports. Let's just look at the one here on the right hand side. These are the so-called in-market segments. This is what Google does if you search and surf on Google services like Google Search, other websites who are using Google Analytics, YouTube, Gmail. They package you in those purchase ready in-market segments. And for example, on this website, we can see that the highest correlating category is consumer electronics mobile phones, because the demo data from the shop is based on the Nest products, those thermostats, those intelligent thermostats. And we can now make assumptions based on those interests, what people are also interested beside my product, which leads us to ideas for content partnerships, for placements where we should use our social media, for example. And the best of all things, you can choose those in-market segments or affinity groups on the left-hand sides directly within Google Ads. For example, if you do display or banner ads or YouTube ads, you can choose people interested in business and productivity software as one specific category. Yeah, and then you target only the people in that category, and you can even combine those categories. So this is what you get from that. Let me answer another question. Are there in-market segments for B2B as well, like FMCG, logistic food producers? So good question. So is it more a B2C or a B2B thing? I think that there are very, very interesting B2B categories. There are, for example, explicit business financial services. Yeah? Or the category of business and productivity software has always shown pretty good results. You can also see that there's a category called business services. So these are people looking for related business services, which are usually B2B services. Yeah? And that means the in-market segment will work in the B2B segment as well. But Detlef, you know how hard display ads are, yeah, to make them actually work. So you have to think that even those categories are still millions and millions of people. Yeah? And it's still a very broad shotgun approach. But they have a good chance of for you to find new customer bases, yeah, on YouTube, on Google Display Banner Networks, or to just make if you have very broad search terms that you're targeting, yeah, to qualify those people just a little bit more. All right. So yeah, as I said, you also can now on level 2, on level 3, start with remarketing. So the first part is activating display features and remarketing. For the display features, you get the interest groups and demographic data. And on the data collection part, you get retargeting. So what does retargeting mean? If you connect your Google Analytics with your Google Ads account, as shown here, let me switch the view. You can now tell Google Ads, these and these people have already visited my website. And a typical set of audiences that I like to create are these. Everybody who has visited my website in the last 540 days, 180, 90, 37 days. So 540 is the maximum you can go back, but you can ask yourself how valuable is a person that has been there 1.5 years ago. But still, it is the biggest data set that we have. I'm going to answer your questions, yeah, Marcel and Stavros, in a moment. The 540 is the biggest data set you get. So if you don't have a lot of traffic, you're interested in getting as many people as possible in there in order to create, for example, similar or lookalike audiences. You can also retarget people who have reached a certain conversion goal. You saw on my dashboard that I'm tracking people who have been on my website for longer than 10 minutes. These are much more likely customers for my workshops than people who have just spent less than a minute on my website, who have just visited. I always create add to cart audiences, checkout and purchase audiences in all e-commerce scenarios, which now gives me the ability to do the following. Let's retarget everybody who has put something into their cart but did not purchase. Now you realize that you can not only retarget the people that you define, but you can actually exclude the people that you want to that you have already targeted. For example, if you only want to get new customers who have never seen your website, you can just exclude everybody who has been there the last 180 days. Yeah, and just take that into the retargeting campaigns. So that is the fun there. All right, I think that is a good time to take a couple of questions. Yeah. Do you want to read some or shall I read some? I saw.
Just a
No, I didn't.
do auto click.
So the argument from Tristan is that it is maybe not legit if you press the accept all, yeah, if the non-clicks are then accepted afterwards. I think this is going to be contended in court, yeah, and we will in some months see how this plays out. Until then, I think this is still the smoothest opt-in solution I have seen yet. So Marcel Bayrich fragt, would you go for signals or better stay with classic display features? So there is a beta feature called Google Analytics Signals. Only go for signals if you go for absolute explicit consent. Signals is Google's way to start going for user IDs from the very beginning. Imagine this, Facebook has always sent your Facebook user ID with everything you have been doing. And this was a big advantage for Facebook Pixel and Facebook Analytics, because while Google was still stuck in session land, yeah, and could not connect the different sessions as well to a person, for example, across devices, it was a disadvantage for Google. So they started the signals features. But signals is an immediate, I'm tracking you user ID based signal. Yeah, and this is pretty much the most creepy thing you can do from a GDPR perspective. So you really have to figure out your opt-in, yeah, scenario and be sure that you're on the safe side there. And then I would start using it. I'm currently using signals in not one of my properties because I want to still have the advantage of first just loading the part of Google Analytics that is pretty safe, yeah, just the behavior tracking, and then later adding the part where the retargeting and demographic data comes in. That is, to my knowledge, not really possible with signals, but I may stand to be corrected. So the background of that question was there are more enabled display features for GTM for display features, but not for signals. Did you ever implemented signals with GDPR? Yeah, only with explicit consent. So Stavros said, might it be an idea that the cookie banner also has some immediately interesting content in there too? Stavros, I love that question because at the moment we are treating the cookie consent like this disgusting add-on that we have to put on top of our website. What you are suggesting is pretty much the start of actually making the consent solution part of your product experience. Why don't we integrate it into the content, into the lead magnets? Yes, of course, but make this part of the exploration of your website. So if you want to continue here, you can opt in, you have to take those checkboxes. If you don't want to go there, leave. There is the option to go there. I think the product people have to start thinking about implementing GDPR because we marketers suck at it. Yeah, so developers like the people from Bohr Labs, yeah, and product people and UX designer should spend more time in creating consent that is way more part of the product experience than those slapped on cookie banners that we see right now. So Detlef is asking, is there a way to exclude users from the retargeting group? For example, in case of a campaign went wrong and created spam traffic. Very good question. Yes, you can. Yeah, you can tell Google, for example, it's a bit hard to do it afterwards. Yeah, that people from a certain source are supposed to go into one retargeting group. Yeah, let's say you created spam traffic from native ads, let's say Outbrain or Taboola, and there was a low quality of traffic. I love them, but a lot of spam traffic comes through those places as well. Maybe not spam, but not relevant traffic, and a lot of it. You can now create an audience based on their source medium, yeah, and then you can exclude that audience in your targeting. All right. Then we have Marcel Weyrich. Makes total sense. So my answer is wait till they have implemented the display features. Thanks. Yeah, hope they could help each other out. All right, thank you very much. All right, let's keep hustling. So those audience are now listed in your audience tab. For example, you see my CSGO audiences. Everybody who has been on my website, who has clicked on the go to the App Store button because I didn't want to retarget them again and again. So what kind of questions do we get answered on this level? We now can answer the questions like, what age and gender does my target group have? What other interests do users have which may help me to understand them better? And then, who was on my website? Or how long, and how long has it been? And you can now retarget those people. Yeah, that is the advantage of level 3 display feature.